Under 2 months away until the NBA draft. Maybe the Heat use their pick, maybe they don't. But on today's show, I'm going to look at draft targets for the Heat with the 20th overall pick, the only one they have in this June's draft via the Golden State Warriors, thanks to the Jimmy Butler trade. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. And before we get into my prospects that I am eyeing at number 20, listen, the draft, yeah, it's far away, but it's never too early to learn. And if you know anyone, friend, family member, coworker that needs to know more about Heat draft targets, share this video, help us out, send it to them over text, put it on social media, it doesn't matter, help us out and make this the largest Heat YouTube channel possible by sharing it on social media and to your friends. I do think it's important to talk about the Heat's biggest needs. When I go into the offseason, here are the things that I think Miami needs to improve on. Now, you can make the argument that the Heat shouldn't be considering and worried about working around Herro Bam because they're on the table. Understandable. But as the current roster is constructed, the number one need is a backcourt partner of the future for Tyler Herro. Someone that can take the load off of him offensively, but not give up too much on the defensive end so you have the worst defensive backcourt in all of the NBA. You need a wing scorer. I think it's obvious, right? Andrew Wiggins was terrible on the wing since coming over, especially late in the year. And the Heat were competitive because Jimmy was so good scoring from the wing. When you lose that wing scorer, it looked abysmal this year. So, yeah, you need a wing, again, that can be a creator and a scorer. But you also need a Kel'el Ware backup at center because Bam Adebayo continues his transition to a 4. And I think all Heat fans want to stop him from being center, and if that's the case, well, you need a true backup center for the rookie, or the now second year, I guess. How crazy is that? Kel'el Ware. So I'm going to go through targets with the 20th pick at guard, wing, and center on today's show. These are the 6 names, honorable mention down below, that I think could be in play for Miami at number 20. Ben Saraf from Israel, Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, Labaron Philon from Alabama, Nolan Traore from France, Kam Jones from Marquette, and then honorable mention, I'll go Jace Richardson from Michigan State. Why is he an honorable mention? Because I don't think he'll get to 20. I think he will be a top 17, top 18 pick. But if he slides to 20 and is there unexpectedly on draft night, I would take him over any of these 5. Well, let's talk about 2 of these players more in depth here at the guard position. We'll start with the Florida Gator point guard, Walter Clayton Jr. And you guys are obsessed with him. And if I'm going to be honest, the obsession needs to stop. I'm sorry. I know some of you guys are Florida basketball fans and Miami Heat fans. It's understandable. But you guys spamming that he is going to be the savior of this team, the fact that he's going to be an all-NBA point guard, I don't want to hear it. Maybe he can become that. He had a really good season this past year for the Gators, led them to a national championship, was a first-team All-AP American consensus, first-ever Gator to do so, which is hard to imagine, but it's the truth. The reason why I am not the highest on Clayton, and there's a lot of reasons. You can talk about his small frame. You can talk about how he only had this big jump this past season. You could talk about his question mark on the defensive end. Like, you could talk a lot about Walter Clayton, right? I just don't see him working next to Tyler Herro. I'm sorry. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to say everything I say I'm right. But I have a belief in my heart that I don't think Clayton's going to be a star at the next level. Do I think he could be a star in his role? Yes, I do. I think that's very different. I think he can be a scoring guard off of the bench. I think Payton Pritchard when I watch Walter Clayton. I do. When I watch his tape, I think Pritchard. And some of you think that is disrespectful. That is not disrespectful. To be Payton Pritchard would be a home run for Clayton because that is a 6th man of the year. Someone who is shooting above 40% from 3 at the next level and giving you 12-plus points off the bench a night. That would be a success for Walter Clayton Jr. And the Heat could use a scoring guard off the bench, sure. But I don't think he works next to Herro because it would be an undersized point guard where I question his defensive ability. He is athletic enough, but I question the defense. And I don't know if I want a purebred score-first guard. I'd like a well-rounded point guard next to Tyler Herro. So, yeah, Clayton's an option, but he certainly is not atop my board for the Heat at 20. But who is your favorite Heat draft target? A lot of you guys will probably say Walter Clayton Jr., to be honest, which I think it's aggressive, but I know you guys, and I know how obsessed you are with Florida college basketball as well. Let me know who your favorite Heat draft target is. Someone that I like better at the guard position, not my favorite prospect, but at least for point guards, is actually Labaron Philon, the true freshman guard from Alabama. 19 years of age. He came off the bench for the Crimson Tide this past year, backing up Mark Sears, and displayed a lot that I liked. He averaged 10.6 points per game. Wasn't a stat sheet stuffer due to limited minutes because of the stacked backcourt that they had. But I think the prospect of him and his intangibles are interesting. He's got decent size for a point guard at 6'4". I searched the entire internet to try to find a wingspan for Labaron Philon. I couldn't do it. I mean, I don't know why he has never been recorded with a wingspan, but I couldn't find one. Either way, he's a little bit light. He needs to add weight for sure, but I think his three-point shot will translate. I think he's got one of the quickest first steps in this entire draft class. I mean, when you watch him get up and down the court, it is a blur. His speed is incredible. His first step off the dribble is insane. And I would be very interested with Labaron Philon being a member of the Heat going forward. I like him a lot. I do. And I have him actually above Walter Clayton in terms of players that I would want. All right, let's move over to the forward list. These are the 5 guys I could see the Heat targeting at number 20 overall if they went with a forward. And I got to be honest, the list of forwards are much better than the guards, and they're much better than the center. So I almost lean going forward just because of best player available. Rasheer Fleming, I ultimately think goes in the top 15, but if he slips to 20, he's no doubt my number 1 guy, regardless of position. I think Nique Clifford would be number 2 overall from Colorado State if he slips all the way to 20. Carter Bryant and Liam McNeely are interesting players as well, both true freshmen. McNeely, a sniper, a scorer, but question marks defensively. Actually was a guard in high school, so he has got a lot of ball handling skills. Carter Bryant, limited offensive production at college, but an NBA-ready frame. He is a good defender, and if he gets to put any type of offensive game together, Carter Bryant could be a home run. But if you want to go high upside, maybe you want to go high Hugo Gonzalez, the forward from Spain. There's a lot of guard skills, but has not played a ton of basketball in his career. Listen, I'll be honest. If they went with one of Rasheer Fleming, Liam McNeely, Carter Bryant, or Nique Clifford, I would not complain. I would have a hard time being upset with one of those 4 on draft night, June 25th, because all of them bring something different to the table, all in the same position grouping of 2 through 4. It's a fascinating group of wings. We're going to dive into 2 of them more in depth here in just a second. But if you want top-notch Miami Heat NBA draft coverage, subscribe today. Listen, I think there's a lot of great content creators when it comes to the Miami Heat. It's awesome how many options y'all have. But I'll be completely frank. I think here at this channel, we do the best when it comes to the NBA draft. I do. So if you want more, subscribe today. In-depth breakdowns of prospects and the whole 9 yards will be live on draft night as well. When I look at the wing, these are 2 of my guys. And I've already started to compile a list for me personally of my guys in the draft, regardless of if the Heat are options for them. I just look in general. Rasheer Fleming and Nique Clifford are in my top 5. I actually tweeted it out on Thursday afternoon. I saw a trend going around of who are your top 5 my guys in the NBA draft. Rasheer Fleming and Nique Clifford are on the list. Jeremiah Fears, Igor Demen, and Kasparas Yakachonis rounded out my top 5 guys. But I love these 2, man. Fleming from St. Joe's defends, he finishes, shot extremely well from 3 last season. Nique Clifford, a do-it-all guy who can score in the mid-range, score at the rim, knock down threes off the dribble and off the catch, something that Fleming can't really do. He's more of a catch-and-shoot three-point guy, but he was a combo guard. And Nique Clifford, at 6'6", could play multiple positions, if you ask me. He could play the 2. He could play the 3. Now, when you think of Rasheer Fleming, he's a 3 or 4. So, yeah, he'll guard big men and on no perimeters and stuff like that. But Clifford can really be maybe even a potential lead ball handler for you in a bench unit if you really wanted to. There's different styles of wings here. Fleming is the big 3-and-D guy who's a freak athlete. Nique Clifford is the do-it-all scoring, rebounding. Like, the fact that Clifford at 6'6", averaged 9.5 rebounds for Colorado State last year is just so damn impressive. It speaks to his toughness, his grittiness, his wingspan, and his vertical ability as well. Both of these guys are my top 2 dudes. Like, I don't think any of the elite guards will fall to Miami at 20. And I'm talking elite. I'm talking Yaka Chonis, Jeremiah Fears, Agor Demen, maybe even Jace Richardson. So to me, if a prospect falls, Fleming and Clifford could be options on the wing. And boy, would I eat them up right away at pick number 20. Going to get over to the centers here in 1 second. But make sure you get a Miami Heat hat. I don't care where and what type of hat you want. But go to chatsports.com/heatdrafthats. Same link here. But you can get draft hats for this upcoming year when they come on sale. You can get beanies. You can get bucket hats. You can get standard curved brim, flat brim, fitted. Got Velcro. You got the, what is it called? The staples? I don't know what they call them. Whatever. Either way, get your hats today when they come available. Chatsports.com/heatdrafthats. All right, let's look at some center targets now for the Heat, because I do think it could be an option for Miami. Now, I would really only target 2 of these 5 in the first round. Johni Broom's an intriguing player, finished second in National Player of the Year. 6'10", lefty, can score in the mid-range, can rebound. He's tough as hell, but I don't think he's worth going 20. Alex Condon, freshman from Florida, or excuse me, sophomore from Florida. Interesting guy. Don't think he's available at 20. Or not available, worth it at 20. Joan Behringer's a fascinating high upside guy, but he's a developmental dude. So if you're taking a developmental center at 20 overall, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But Thomas Sorber from Georgetown and Danny Wolf from Michigan. 2 guys that I think you could plug and play right away. The only 2 centers that I would consider, if I'm going to be frank. Danny Wolf played a lot of basketball in the Ivy League for Yale, transferred to the Big Ten in Michigan, played excellent at the 4 this year, worked with Vlad Golden, massive 7'3" type of guy. He played well. And he actually shot a 3-ball a little bit, shooting 33%. So Danny Wolf's certainly an intriguing option for Miami. But Thomas Sorber's the one that really intrigues me. True freshman, got hurt, only played in 24 games because of a foot injury, but he is a rim-protecting, rim-running center. 14.5 points a game, 2.6 blocks, was on track to potentially look like a Ryan Kalkbrenner opponent in terms of Big East Defensive Player of the Year. Doesn't space the floor, but like I said, he's a rim-running, rim-protecting center. He's a little bit shorter than Danny Wolf, 2 inches smaller, but his wingspan is about the same, and he is pretty strengthy, and he's pretty built for a 19-year-old. 255. I mean, Wolf is 22 already, experienced guy, and they're about the same weight. And Sorber's a little bit shorter. Like, Sorber isn't the craziest athlete, but he can reach the top of the cookie jar. I think if I would go with a backup center at 20, I would rather have Sorber. Now, he could go back to school. He is an early entrant, but he could exit if he doesn't get the right kind of response from NBA teams at the Combine in mid-May. But if he stays in the draft class, he's certainly a player that I would be fascinated with at 20. I think he would be a really good backup center for Miami with his ability to block shots. He's pretty smart in terms of his defensive rotations as well. I'd keep my eye on Thomas Sorber if I was a Heat fan. But let me ask you this. Would you draft a center with the 20th overall pick? Because I would argue it's probably the biggest need for, not the biggest need. I would prioritize a lot of guards and a lot more wings before I thought about going center. But I want to know if you guys would consider. Type D for draft, or type P for pass. I'd consider it. And like I mentioned, with those list of 5 guys that could go in the late first round, the only 2 that I would even put on my board at number 20 are Thomas Sorber and Danny Wolf. There's not a world where I would go with Behringer, Broom, or Condon at number 20 overall. I'd prefer almost every guard that we mentioned on today's show, and I would prefer every wing that we mentioned on today's show as well. I'd consider, but I'd probably pass. I'd rather go with a wing or a guard because backup center isn't the craziest need for the Heat. It's a need, but it isn't the craziest need that I'd spend a first-round pick on. Make sure you are subscribed because we're going to continue to have you covered on everything you need Miami Heat related in this offseason. So hit that sub button and join us here for the top Miami Heat YouTube coverage there is. Join the channel today.